Hey, well, how about that? We're finally ready to put the quarter panel back on. Misjudge, Judgment Day, Poor Judgment, Judge Judy. Got all these wonderful names rolling in, and of course, definitely appreciate those. But besides all that, I've got everything all prepped and ready. There's a few things you might want to know before welding that in final to save yourself some headaches. I'm about to show you all that, and then work on getting that put back in. Brought to you in part by Live Wire and Bricks. Okay, so what I've done here in the meantime, wire brush all of this, got everything, all the loose stuff removed. Now, I didn't make this thing 100% bare steel, but went ahead and treated this some rust converter, got things sealed up, put a coat of just flat black paint on it just to make it look tidy. Took care of the little dings and dents down here in the fender well, that way when the trunk's open, that looks really clean. The front edge, I didn't get quite as critical. You can see some of the small dents there, but they hammered out pretty good. But again, this is the nicest outer fender well I've ever seen on any car I've ever put together, so I'm going to stick with it and its original sheet metal just the same. And then if someone's asking about what these numbers meant, they're stamped on all these panels, but all of them have the stamping somewhere. This one has an L dent, so I'm assuming probably left side. But I've never been able to decode those. Last I knew, no one's decoded those. But if anyone knows about these numbers or has, I guess, definition what those mean, I'd like to know. But last I knew, they're just kind of there from the assembly for whatever reference for who knows what. Because we remember salvaged one here in the trunk jam. But before you install this quarter panel, of course you did all of our test fitting. We did some modifications on the door jamb opening. I got it painted on the back side. So that part's taken care of. But before you go to try to weld this in, one of the things you want to do, drill some holes here. It's already horrible to get in here and try to weld it, but just imagine trying to drill the holes while hanging upside down inside the trunk. Almost impossible. So drill a couple holes there, and the same idea, that lip there where it welds to the rocker panel, I went ahead and pre-drilled some holes here in that bottom lip on my quarter panel. That way, once it's all installed, I can go in through this opening here in the interior and zap, 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 and weld that into place. And of course, this red looking primer is a weld through primer that I use. Seems to work pretty good as a self-etching primer. I feel it is better than nothing because from the factory, this is bare steel between these panels. So I'm already doing better than what they did. But so those are the few things you'll want to do prior to installing this and welding, because that's going to save you a lot of grief. But the next thing here, I'm going to pick this thing back up, put it into place, and make sure it's all good, and we'll start burning this thing in. So what could possibly go wrong? No, it's all gonna go great. All right. Well, this isn't any different than before. Put that up there in there first, and it kind of falls into place, really. Now, the advantage of test fitting all this stuff prior to is I have these screws. Oops, you can see what I'm doing. Holes and everything. You just throw these things back in here. It really should pull things back into place. I know sometimes you have to move things around a little bit. But that runs that in. And I did remember to weld this in. Look, it kind of has a similar gap that it did. Probably should went just a little bit higher, but I'm going to weld that gap shut, and then might do something different. I haven't decided I'm going to put lead back in that channel yet or what. But same thing, I'll go ahead and run my screws all back through here in the door jamb, a couple in the wheel well, and I'll check our panel alignment. I'm looking pretty good. Door jamb looks just like it did. We doctored that up. Loving that. Pulls up real tight down here to the rocker panel. This quarter panel is fitting really good in that area. Our body line within probably a 32nd of an inch. I'm gonna call that good. That looks pretty sharp. So just put a pair of vice grips there on the back. Now we're gonna get to the trunk jam. It's a little different how I did this. If you recall, I cut the gutter off and recycled the gutter. So what I'm going to do now is, the trunk deck is on for a reason. So what I can do is I can start stitching little tacks. Because right now these two pieces are actually separate. The top panel, I really can't pull it back apart, but they're almost laid in here perfect. I'll get it really close. This is our sheet metal, and this is our, I can see now, sandblasted metal is silver. The black is the EDP coating on our quarter panel. I'm gonna go zap, zap, zap. As long as my gap looks nice and even, and it does, I'll keep burning it in. Now when I get back here to the back, well, our gap isn't so great. It's touching really hard. But I can't pull on this. If I pull on here, watch what it does up here. It distorts my gap up here. Well, I really can't see it, but you get the idea. Now it popped below it. See, I pop that, and if I try to, so I'll pull this up, it'll move out there. So what I need to do is tack these into place, and then pick up on this, which will pull this over. But I need to get this mounted first. And when I did here, I covered up that number so I didn't get any slag down in the numbers, because that stuff won't clean up so great. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to shut the trunk and put a couple tacks along our edge here, and that will get this holding into place so we can adjust our gap down here. I'll do a couple little stitches here. Yep. Still like the gap. Burn it in here. Still looks good up to this point, so we'll go ahead and zap that. Now, when this is all said and done, I'll end up going and weld that whole thing 100% solid. But for now, just in case I need to cut that back loose, I'm not going to weld it all the way. Now, the other thing is we've got this little Tack driver here. Sometimes when that panel kicks underneath, like it is here, you can work that in there and then see you can pull back up above, and I can tack that into place then. On this car, though, I can reach on the inside of it. Check my gap now that I've welded that a little bit. Looks pretty good. It's really good, actually. There we go. I'm going to check that corner again. Show you what that looks like. I'll get you up here a little closer to see what I'm looking at, because the spoiler and the trunk deck gets in the way. But what I was doing was concerning myself with the gap to the quarter panel. That's nice and even all the way up to the window. It looks great. Even down to our radius now, nice and even. We get down here, well, that's not so great. My idea, hopefully, is now that's tacked, I'll work on pulling this out. That should open up our gap here a little bit, I hope. If not, on worst case scenario plan, we just cut a little bit of the edge of the quarter panel off, move that over and weld it into place. But I think our height is good, because look at this. That's shut, and that's the same height as the quarter. So our length is good. I just need it to go that way just a little bit. So I'll work on prying this over, see how that goes, and we'll tack that into place and maybe clamp this thing in here so it won't move around. Well, after a few insightful conversations with myself, I decided I'm going to tack this here, this little tack weld in the corner of this. And notice it's kind of pulled loose from the inner piece a little bit. Run a screw through here. That'll draw it over some. And then the rest of it, if it won't go, we're going to use this little fella right here and give it a little tap-tap-a-roo and see what happens. But I think we're going to tack that, screw it, smack it, and see what it does. That part. Now let's see. Well. Devil. Yep, didn't hit anything important. Need to go closer to the panel. I think what I'm gonna have to do though, I need to tack it here in the middle. If I start pushing on that, it's separating from where I need it to be. I needed this guy here. She got pushed in a little bit, so oops. That's the sound of people old make. All right, what I'm doing now is pulling this back out because I realized I distorted it pretty good. Put that in here. Pull that metal back out. Now it has a little bump on there. Okay. Yeah, I'll do a little welding there in the middle. Wonder what that looks like. Well, decent through here, but just touching on the edge of it there. So, anyway. Let's see if that adjusted it. Oh, look at that, not touching no more. One or two more little hits with that guy. I think that'll work. I want to get here in further, so we'll do it this way. Okay. Man, that's pretty close. I have a gap now between the two panels here. I'll show you. All right, this is what I've done. Like I said, you saw what I did there. Okay, it looks good all the way down. At the very end here, you can see it just gets a little narrower, but I don't think I'm gonna do anything more with that. Because here's the thing about it. This trunk deck is toast, 100% garbage. Well, I shouldn't say 100%, maybe like 95%. It could be salvaged, but I'm waiting for my repop one to show up because who knows, I may have to readjust all this, but I could definitely live with that. That's actually within a respectable range of good. So now that's all tack welded into place. Now it's as simple as, in all seriousness, coming through, I'll just show you where they all go. Spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld. This needs all weld, all 3 layers, roof skin, new quarter, inner structure. So I'll probably come through where the original spot welds were at. Weld those solid. Then I'll probably, like even from the factory, I have some stitch welding on here. So I'll probably do the same thing, come back in and fill it in. So I'm gonna do that. And I'm very confident that I will be able to get in there and weld that. It's actually touching the panel. I get the camera to focus. It's actually there where it needs to be. I'm just gonna put a couple little stitch welds into place. But before I do that, I need to check my gap here. I believe it's 1 5/8 of an inch, because you can actually adjust this in and out. When you weld that in, that's what's gonna hold this in place. So I'm gonna get that, check my measurement. Actually, I got my tape measure right here. Pretty sure it was 1 5/8, but here's the thing you can do. Walk to the other side of the car and go check it. But we're actually right where we need to be, it looks like right now. So anyway, I'll burn that into place. Now, the door jamb, got a couple things we have to do here. I've already put 1 screw into place, and that's down here. But from about you can actually reach inside. The inner structure doesn't go full length. It stops right about here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through here. Put some spot welds in that. A couple here go between the striker plate inside the door jamb to the quarter. And we got a row of spot welds through here, a couple here, and then through here. Now the ones inside there, well, I might be able to get in here with my hand and weld those through that opening. If not, get the window regulator out of the way, we'll come back in and burn those in. Wheel well arch, same thing. You're just gonna do some plug welds all around the whole thing. And then our trunk drop off, it's pulled up really close and tight. We'll come through, clamp this into place, and put our spot welds into there. So I'll work on doing all that, but for the most part, I'd say this is actually looking really clean. It's gonna come out really nice, and I think it's definitely gonna work out pretty good. Basically, what I'm gonna do now is just put a bunch of screws in this thing exactly where I want all of my spot weld, plug welds, or whatever you wanna call them, where I want those to be. Once I get everything all screwed into place, one last little look over, everything still looks great. The same technique I've showed you quite a few times in the past. Take one screw out, drill the top layer or layers to the larger 1/4-inch size hole, fill in the hole, and work my way around the entire panel. And that'll take me a little bit of time welding all that in. But now you see how a 1/4 panel gets fitted into the car. Got to adjust it how I want it. All the gaps are dialed in as good or maybe slightly better than factory. And this is a replacement piece of sheet metal. Really, all in all, besides it wasn't stamped right, or maybe let's just call it advertised right. It was listed for 68, 69. Well, we know they're not the same panel, so there had to be some differences. So I anticipated that. But I was really hoping it was more along the lines of 1969 panel. But like I said, Ames Performance sells it, and so does Original Parts Group, supposedly sells the right ones. Maybe you'll have different challenges. Maybe you have to do the dog leg here in the window. Maybe something else might be out of whack. But I'll almost promise you'll have to do some kind of adjustment or some kind of tweaking. So, I mean, I get the screwing around here, put a bunch of screws in. Then once I'm happy, I'll stitch weld that entire thing in there and bring you back. All right, all done screwing around now. If you take a look at this door jamb post, I have screws all down the whole outer edge and all the way up the inside there on a little dog leg. Any place you see a screw, I'm going to remove those. I'll show you here one or two of them here. You drill that out and you do a nice plug weld. Got it screwed all the way across up here. Now, unfortunately, there's nothing to bite on the inside here. That's probably why from the factory they stitch weld. I didn't hit anything when I hit the screws there, and I guess I kind of forgot about that. But what I'll do is I'll tack this in place and hammer this down. Same thing, you tack it, you can hammer this down a lot flatter. It'll pull into place. Now, the inside of the window channel, same thing. I'll do some plug welds through here. Now, I went ahead and just a little stitch weld right here to help hold this thing in place so I get the clamps out of the way. It has real wide vice grips on there, so I need that out of my way. And then I'll come through here and we'll stitch the entire seam here for the trunk drop off or trunk gutter. Now this is actually looking real nice, like getting all screwed into place. That gap's looking good. Trunk is level with the 1/4 panel. I really like that. Put some screws through here, and I still gotta get some screws. I just remembered up through here, up into the inner tail panel. That's not too bad to do, but this is actually pulled up really nice here. Pulled up good all the way down the whole thing. You can see nice and even. That 1/4 panel lined up really good here with the bottom part of the trunk drop off. Get this thing to focus. Looks really nice and even. Now the only place I had a little trouble, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to do anything with it, is right in through here. It just didn't grab any metal on the backside. The gap gets too big. Now there's 3 here that goes through the bottom of the 1/4 panel into the trunk drop off. They kind of poke through here on the inside. You can see them right there nice and lined up. And then of course through the whole wheel well arch, same thing. A couple of those do. I'll show you one of these how I do this. All right, now you saw all these screws in every which spot they got to go back into the car. Now what I do to fix that now, oops, take the screw out. Now this only has the 1/4 panel and an inner structure. What I'll do now, this is a 1/4-inch drill bit. I will enlarge the hole, drilling through the entire outside sheet metal, which is the 1/4 panel, then just hitting the inner structure. Helps if you get your drill bit chucked in there right. All right, now it's countersunk into the other panel ever so slightly. Well, that being done, gives me a place to feed this wire into. If you do it right, it'll look just like a spot weld for the most part. Look at that. Let me show you that really close. That lays out super flat. Look at the camera to focus. There's nothing sticking up on that. I could take a wire brush or sandblast that, and that'll look very similar to the spot weld. Now, unfortunately, I got to repeat this about 60 or 70 times to take care of all these, but that's the process now. I'll go ahead and burn all of those in just the same way. I was successfully getting that all welded in, looking pretty good, but I want to show you something here. Remember how I put the tape over my number because of slag? Look at this, little chunks of slag. Maybe I've done this a time or two before. But now that actually looks really, really nice still. But all stitch welded in all the way front to back. So I'll work on getting the 80 grit buffer. I might go 60 grit. Work this out, get it leveled up. But you can see it in the reflection. It doesn't really warp the panel. Putting the weld right on the corner seems to really help out a lot and actually laid out nice. This gap's pulled together really good. I like that. So basically, I'm going to work on getting this buffed out here. We got the next part, and then we'll just about wrap this thing up. Well, so there you have it. All welded, done, buffed, cleaned, really actually ready to do some more body work at that point, but I'm not ready to do body work yet, so I may just put some primer on this for the meantime. So what are you going to get into next go around? Well, still got some stuff I can still take care of. Eventually, we're going to pull this thing off the frame, go through everything and do every bit and piece of it, but I'm just not ready to do that yet because it might be moving here still soon. So what we're going to work on next round is this right here. And what's happening here? Well, I did a little bit of cleanup. I have a rust hole here on the top of the panel on the quarter panel. Well, that's bad. We're not going to replace the whole panel just for that. We're going to fabricate and make a piece. Then the window channel. Look at this. That looks horrible. This is the only rust on this entire car. Super happy with it. I know it's definitely from California because I know all the cars. This is like a gutter. It holds water. I expect any place to have some rust here, but I don't have rust anywhere else in the normal places. In the quarter panel, wheel well, behind the tires. The rest of the cars are in really fantastic shape. So next go around, work on fabricating and installing these pieces here on the window channel. Well, that's going to wrap us up on the Judge, or whatever you want to call it, video for today. Super happy. That thing lined up fantastically. I love the fitment. It looks good. Very minimal body working now. We'll get that thing squared away and looking fantastic. So, got to say it's a good victory here for us today. So, I do have a video if you guys want to check that out on that spot welding or plug welding. If you want a little more detail, somewhere up here on the screen, there should be a link to it if you want to see that. I've done that a couple times, so I didn't think I needed to hash it out one more time. But do appreciate you following me on the journey of these old cars, putting them back together, making it happen in this little garage for a little bit longer. But we'll see here what's in the works, and I'll keep you all posted just the same. But nonetheless, I will grab the camera and get to work on that corner there, and we will see you all then.